As a result of today's episode on the Simply Flawsome show, we will demystify the jargon around quantum healing. After this episode, you will have a much clearer understanding of how it really works and what you need to do to start practicing. So this show is for anyone who is curious on how they can master their mind to heal their body. So if you're listening to this and you know anyone that might benefit from it, please send them a copy of the link. I'm sure they will thank you for it. So my guest, who I'm talking to today, he's had a lot of personal experience in relation to healing. And he is someone who I have turned to personally for advice on how to do this. And it also happens that the previous podcast episode that I did with Peter was the most downloaded episode of the whole series.
Oh, wow.
So, quite exciting that we've got him back today.
Very humbling.
Okay, so please welcome Peter Sage.
Pleasure to be here, Zoe.
Thank you. So, Pete, as you know, I've been dabbling a little bit in kind of quantum healing. And I have to say, just purely the word quantum used to confuse me. Yeah. So what I've been doing personally, I've been healing. I've been meditating every day for a month for about 40 minutes. And what I do is I set the intention, and then I marry the attention with the motion. So your thoughts, the intention is your thoughts, and the emotion is your feelings. And then when I'm in theta state, I'll kind of marry them both together. And I've noticed a huge difference just in the space of a month from when I've been doing that. Mm-hmm. I've noticed a difference in the way that I communicate, my language, and my thoughts around my intention. Yeah. Without talking about me too much, I tend to just trust the process, whereas I know you're a little bit more kind of technical and you can go into the detail a lot more than me. So, can meditation make you heal faster?
Of course it can. And when you talk about terms like quantum healing, you're right, it is confusing for people, and there's been a lot of people that have kind of hijacked the term to make things sound a little confusing or woo-woo in order to cover up pseudoscience or to cover up essentially stuff that doesn't have a lot of objective results behind it. And the challenge is you have kind of a polarity in the medical world. You have the traditional medical-based, Newtonian grounded cause and effect, which has been the predominant source of truth for the last 100 plus years. Uh-huh. And we're starting now to understand a lot more scientifically that completely invalidates that model. And we know, for example, even in law, that something called the placebo effect, we put into law that if your mind, your beliefs, which is intangible, non-physical, your belief about what it is that you're doing in terms of pills that you're taking, procedures you're following, is as big, if not bigger, impact on the body's own healing than the actual molecular chemical structure of what it is that you're taking. Now that's just fact. And it's so much of a fact that they won't allow you to sell a pharmaceutical drug unless you can beat your own belief system about it. And many, if you do your research, either don't make the grade, or if you take the largest selling antidepressant, for example, it only outperformed its sugar pill placebo on a double-blind controlled study by about 2%. Yeah, there have been so many studies, but the problem is medical science will not give credibility to the studies, so they won't publish them in peer-reviewed journals, so they won't be accepted mainstream, because the very acceptance of this pulls away the foundation that they stand so holier than thou on to validate their own significance based on their model of the world. Whereas if you and I just want to heal, I don't need to have the rubber stamp seal of approval from science that deals only in the objective world to something that is essentially a subjective experience. Yeah, I'd probably be dead by the time that happens. So learning how to heal at a quantum level and quantum healing is really just understanding that all healing happens at a level of intelligence that supersedes the physical. You cannot heal your body. A doctor cannot heal your body. A pill cannot heal your body. All it can do is facilitate the body's ability to heal itself. Now, when you understand that, you can start taking more charge of your own healing and start looking at what is that process? What is the innate intelligence behind it? And as you quite rightly state, when you get into meditation, there are miracles of spontaneous remission that, again, the typical Newtonian-based paradigm of traditional allopathic medicine completely ignores as an anomaly, that really validate that once you get into a theta state, once your brain waves go from anywhere from about 4 to 7 hertz, you are in a highly susceptible, essentially a state of hypnosis, where the front critical aspect of the brain that deals with the science and the objective is put to sleep, and you are now open to magical stuff happening. And again, we don't like using the term magical, but 100 years ago, if you'd have seen a Harrier jump jet park on your driveway, it would have been magical because you don't understand the science.
So let's break the process down, because I remember when I spoke to you about it and you sent me a voice note, and it was really, really useful what you said. You were talking about it's 70% mind.
Yes, I mean, we are physical beings.
30% what you physical,
you
put into your body. So that's kind of like nutrients.
30% physical, 70% non-physical.
Okay, and then you were also talking about kind of sleep, deep sleep, because that's where kind of, the healing process actually takes place. So let's try and keep it really simple, because it can be quite a demystifying subject for quite a few people.
If somebody wants to accelerate their healing, then the first thing that they have to look at, or they have to understand, is that, again, it's 70% non-physical, including your beliefs around why you're ill, the thought patterns and the thinking processes over time that have caused the disease. And there isn't a credible doctor on the planet right now that won't link some level of emotional component psychosomatically to the illness. And you then have to support it physically. Now, just talking about the physical side, because that's what people can understand the most, it makes sense. If the body is programmed to heal itself, you're not programmed to get sick. That's not part of the rule set. If you get sick, it's because you're off kilter. And, when they're doing studies on animals, which I'm not a fan of, they will induce sickness in them by either introducing a certain toxin or creating a certain lifestyle, etc., that is not conducive to health of that animal. So we know how the physical symptoms work. And if you have a rule set that governs the physical processes, if you violate that rule set, something's going to happen. If I hit somebody in the head with a lead pipe, they're going to have brain damage and not be able to move. That's part of the rule set. If somebody eats an overwhelming amount of junk food, they're going to have a physical response to that. So there is a physical component, but the body's not designed to get sick if you give it what it needs. So sickness, the first thing to understand is that the cancer cloud doesn't come along and rain on you. It's not a roll of the dice. There is a cause to the sickness, but predominantly most of the cause is based in the non-physical. And you see this all the time. As soon as people give up their resentments, give up blaming their parents, give up their victim story, all of the stuff that generally is a low frequency, that doesn't feel good, then the body starts to get well. The body starts to respond. But physically, you have to support it. So no toxins, and stop putting the wrong things in. Start putting the right things in and get the things that shouldn't be in there out. That's health in 3 simple steps. Everything else falls under one of those categories. So on a physical sense.
So that would be toxins we're putting into our body, but also environmental toxins.
Doesn't matter how they get in. It's either voluntary by ordering a supersized meal.
Also the toxins that we put on our skin through the products that we use.
Or it's cosmetic, or it's exhaust fumes, or we live on a toxic planet now.
So we just try and reduce our toxic exposure.
There's 2 sides to that. One is try to reduce it voluntarily, and don't eat chemical crap that you shouldn't eat. Preservatives are a great example. And also try to increase your body's own immunity, which will make a massive difference.
Yeah, yeah. In the last 2 years, I've reduced my chemical exposure massively, and I've noticed a huge difference. Huge difference in, like, you know, when people are cleaning around me, and it's, you know, I have to go outside, or I have to, like, you know.
Becomes like people smoking.
Yeah, yeah, you can feel the chemicals. Even when going into a room, if there's a lot of bottles in there of chemicals, I don't like doing that, you know. I can just really kind of, I feel like my body's so much more susceptible to it now. And that proves to me that it really, really does work. I know for a number of years when I used to have properties in the UK, I still do, I was very, very hands-on with my properties. And I would often, like if a tenant left, I would go in and I would clean, and I would literally, and I was obsessed with bleach because I was obsessed with everything being clean. So I would clean with bleach with my bare hands and not even kind of wear gloves or anything like that. So I know in the past that my chemical exposure has been absolutely huge, and I suspect that that's had a major impact on my health. And I probably think I'm maybe healthier now than I was maybe 10 years ago as a result of that, even though I'm older now.
Well, let's come back to the non-physical, because what I will say on that is that your beliefs around it count for a huge amount. You go to one of the spiritual masters you can see on the wall behind me. You can walk amongst them and not be affected by them.
Okay.
Jesus was able to walk into a leper colony and heal people without being affected and catching leprosy. Why? His belief around his level of health had so much congruency and certainty. His heart and mind was so aligned. See, if I want to eat a burger, quite rare, but if I do, because I'm not super anal about health, and when it comes to, like, you know, being meticulous, because that is the other side of the pendulum swing. It's where do you live, where do you visit?
But what if you just blasé about it? At the time, I didn't have any belief about it. I didn't...
Sorry, we're recording. You can edit that.
Yeah, I didn't have any belief about it. I was just doing it. I didn't think that, I wasn't aware of the dangers that I was doing to my body.
So you're like a ship without a rudder in the ocean, just going where the current takes you. But if you want to take charge of that direction with your health, it starts with your thoughts. So yeah, you can walk amongst them and not be affected by them. That only has a limited effect in the physical world. You can think salads all you like, but if you're eating 3 cheeseburgers a day, your physical rule set will override that level of belief. But if you're having a burger once in a while, if you feel guilty about that, that's going to double the effect, the negative effects, because now you're putting your body into a state of, you know, catabolic stress because of the guilt. You're lowering your immune system. You're dropping your, you know, IGF factor. You're compromising your integrity of the cells based on your thoughts way more than the cheeseburger. So beliefs around what you do count for a large amount. So again, physically, stop putting the wrong things in, start putting the right things in, and try to get the things that shouldn't be in there over time out. That's called detoxing. And then sleep is a big component of the physical world, because the body rejuvenates and repairs when your conscious mind is out of the way. So deep sleep, if you're healing, try to get at least 2 hours of deep sleep a night. When I say deep sleep, I'm talking slow wave. So from half a hertz, half cycles per second in terms of brain waves, right up to around about 5 hertz.
And there's loads of apps these days where people can measure their sleep.
Correct. I mean, I wear this. It's an Oura ring, and that tracks all of my everything from heart rate variability, body temperature, slow wave, fast wave. It's a great app. But I would say the average person would get a good night's sleep for repair, an hour to an hour and a half of deep sleep in a 7-hour window. Maybe 2 hours of REM sleep, which is great.
Deep sleep is where the healing occurs.
Deep sleep is where the physical rejuvenation occurs. REM sleep, which is the rapid eye movement where we dream, where we're more in theta than delta, is where the neural synapses actually start integrating a lot of the learning that we've had in the previous day. And other synapses that are not being used for a while kind of get pruned like leaves on a tree. It's fascinating to watch under a microscope. So, you know, the body is very busy when you're asleep, which is why it tries to get you out of the way in terms of your conscious awareness.
Let's give the audience an example of one of your experiences where
Sure.
you have used your mind to heal your body.
Absolutely. In fact, there's been several, but I think three times that I've healed bones on X-ray in under 3 weeks. And the last time was only about 6 months ago when I was riding my bike. I came off the bike and I bounced off the pavement, and I got up and this shoulder was kind of level with my chin, and this wrist was, all twisted, and it showed that I'd smashed my AC joint here, and I'd actually split my radius from here all the way down, almost like someone had put a splitter bar in it and come it this way rather than a typical break this way. And that wouldn't have been so much of an issue, but I was meant to be going to Africa 3 weeks later, trekking gorillas in the jungle, and I couldn't afford to not go because I was leading a team of 10 of my senior coaching clients, and they'd all paid a lot of money and it couldn't cancel, and there was a lot at stake. But I went straight onto my YouTube channel, and I'm in a sling here because my shoulder's bust. I'm in a cast here, so I can't do anything. I'm literally immobilized. And I said, hey, what a great opportunity to demonstrate one of my accelerated healing aspects. And again, I went through the mindset that one needs. The mindset of allowing the body to heal, visualizing on a meditation, pink light, white light, seeing the bones fuse together like magnets, entering high frequency states like unconditional love, gratitude, joy, compassion, humility, forgiveness, forgiving yourself for falling off the bike. And those states accelerate healing. It's just non-negotiable. As opposed to doing what a lot of people do, unfortunately, which is fight or resist their condition, which creates a state of acidosis, which creates a state of resistance, which creates a state of high cortisol. There's a massive biochemical component there. In fact, if I'm working with people with cancer, one of the first questions I asked is, when was the last time you sat on the same side of the table and asked the disease what it wanted? Because if it's a message and you're trying to get rid of it, that's like looking at the red light on the dashboard that's flashing that you're low on oil, and saying, right, I'm going to get rid of this light, so you get a pair of wire snippers and you cut the wire from behind so it doesn't bother you anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people do with drugs. So when was the last time you sat down and said, okay, I'm clearly off kilter somewhere. I know the cloud of cancer doesn't just rain on me randomly. What's caused this? Now, it may be a physical component. Your 20 years of lifestyle of diet and smoking and what have you, or asbestos exposure, or whatever it may be. There's some physical, but more often than not, vast majority of time, it is a non-physical component. You've been harboring resentment against somebody that jilted you. You haven't got over the fact that you lost your first love. You are feeling exceptionally stressed because you are overpressured at work and you don't know how to deal with that. So what is cancer there for in that scenario? It's what I call the rumble strip. You're driving down the road, and either side of the motorway there's a rumble strip. And it's there to get your attention if you veer off track. So if all of a sudden you're feeling depressed, you're not designed to get depressed. It's a rumble strip. Why are you not connecting to gratitude? Why are you not connecting to finding something that you can be happy about, even if it's a distant memory? Why are you not looking for hope instead of despair? It's a choice. And so that rumble strip will get louder if we don't listen. And what most people do is they're driving down the road, they're listening to their music, they're veering off track. Health is a great example. And all of a sudden, they're eating cheeseburgers, they're eating pizza, they're not exercising, and they get shortness of breath when they go upstairs. Like, a bit of a pain. That's the rumble strip just starting. And at that point, it's meant to get your attention, come back to the center of the road. But what do most people do? That's interfering with me enjoying my music. I'll turn my music up. And it gets louder. It's called the one of the laws that life has, which is the law of progressive feedback. And what will happen is next time it may be a sharp pain, maybe a fatal heart attack. You never know. Sometimes you go off the verge and there's not a lot of warning. So understanding that disease carries a message and being willing to sit around the same side of the table rather than draw swords across it and fight. You see so many people, I'm going to battle this cancer. Well, the fact you got cancer may be that you've been battling your whole life against other stuff.
Most illnesses are psychosomatic. I'm a big believer of that.
There is always a psychosomatic component, unless, again, there's a typical rule set violation, like exposure to asbestos or gamma radiation, or you've been whacking 2,000 toxins every time you draw on a cigarette 40 times a day for 20 years. There's that aspect. But vast majority, you can cure disease through psychosomatic levels of counterbalance. Great example. and the BBC put this out, but because again it violated the rules of the traditional allopathic rule set of the royalty of doctors, they pulled it off. But you can still see it on YouTube. They did a documentary whereby people were put in for knee surgery. Well, actually they had knee problems, and they tested the placebo effect against various different levels of intervention. And so people who were given a pill got a certain amount of recovery. People that were given an injection, it was a saline solution, and it was a sugar pill that the first group got. They got a saline solution, but they were told it was a powerful drug. And boom, far higher percentage of people had full recovery. And then they put several people under the knife. They said, you need surgery, but the surgery is guaranteed to fix this. And they did this in collaboration with a surgeon. You can go look at the studies. And all the surgeon did, they put them under general anesthetic. And while they were asleep, he made a tiny little incision and sewed it back up. No surgery was performed. Every single one who had the sham surgery fully recovered, completely. And one of the most telling things of that documentary was the surgeon afterwards that had to come to the conclusion that his entire identity as a surgeon, his 4 years in medical school and advanced training, counted for nothing. It was the belief of the patients that had cured the people all along. And he was very humbled by that, but at least open enough, because he couldn't argue with the results that were in front of him. I mean, you go tell me that there's not a metaphysical component and the body doesn't heal itself at a quantum level based upon your belief.
Yeah, so we have established that there's obviously a lot of truth to the and a lot of truth to quantum healing. But how often? How long would someone have? I'm going to edit this. How long would someone have to meditate for to heal their body?
Well, you're saying meditate as if it's just something you do. You can sit and meditate and make things worse. You can sit and meditate and have no result. What you're looking to do is separate your sense of identity by turning down the two data streams. The physical data coming from the 5 physical senses and the mental data coming from the chatterings of the mind. If you can turn down that and stop processing that data, you have a sense of self that is separate from your mind and body, because then you're not your mind, you're not your body.
But assuming an individual knows what to do, assuming they know how to meditate, assuming they know how to set the intention and the emotion and feel the intention as though it's happened and associate it with that emotion, assuming that person has that level of knowledge about healing, how often would they have to do that in order for it to be successful?
Well, for a start, it's all individual. Sometimes a person's biggest lesson is that they need to get to the end of the game. Sometimes a person only needs to let go of a little bit. Sometimes people have got a lot more work to do and they're resistant to it. But if you, all things being equal, it's almost like going to the gym. If you go to the gym in the physical world and you train, you don't expect to suddenly get fit and strong in one workout. There is a 6 to 8 week lag time for your body to respond before you really start noticing results, on average.
8 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks on average on the physical world. We understand that. Now, you don't go into the gym, lift the weights to a really hard workout, like I know you did today, and then walk into the changing rooms and says, wow, I did all that work on my arms. I wonder if they'll grow. I wonder if they'll respond. No, you don't think that. You just know because it's part of the rule set. We don't get to see it. It's long-term over time. And if we walk out of the gym and go to McDonald's, we're going to sabotage. Exactly the same in the metaphysical world. You sit down to meditate, you think positive thoughts, you get into a high state of gratitude, which is an amazing state to get into. It raises the frequency. You can't be in a state of catabolic state, and you can't be in a state of acidosis and grateful at the same time. Too much oxytocin, too much serotonin, too much dopamine. And so if you come out of your meditation and then check your email and start bitching and complaining, that's like going to McDonald's after the gym. You're going to undo the work. But if you meditate and all of a sudden you have this great experience, and then you say, well, look, bad things are still happening and my results for my disease are still not turning around, that's like coming out of the gym and saying, listen, I walked in 16 stone, I had a really good workout and I'm still 16 stone. Well, yeah, that's going to happen for a while. So you have to really give it time. In 6 to 8 weeks, you should start to see some results. Now, if you start putting pressure on yourself for that, you completely invalidate the effectiveness. One has to learn how to lower the importance, let go of the outcome, and get into the state for the sake of enjoying the state. And then trust the wisdom of the current of the river that you're in to bring you to a better place. Rather than try to fight the current, because that's what the mind tries to do, rather than position itself better in the current, if that makes sense.
I can only speak from personal experience, and although I have done a lot of visualization in the past and a lot of hypnotherapy, this is the first time I've actually done what I view as, well, I've done hypno healing before, but done it consistently for like 2 specific intentions. So my first intention is quite specific. I'm not going to say what it is because it's quite personal to me, but it's something that I've put a lot of importance on in the past. Too much importance to the fact that I couldn't even talk about it, like even probably a couple of months ago, without welling up, with tears in my eyes, or, I had all these emotions of shame associated with it, and just talking about it was really, really difficult for me. So from a personal experience, doing this meditation consistently, I feel like the importance on it has lowered so much, and my outlook on it, I just feel is kind of like totally different. But also the emotions that I'm associating with the intention, which is love and gratitude, and that's what I'm associating with it daily, because that's the prominent emotion that shows up for me when I set my intention. So that, I feel, is coming out in lots of other areas of my life. Like, let me give you an example. I recently went to see my father in the UK. Is that recording?
Yeah.
I recently went to see my father in the UK, and I've not seen my dad for 2 years. I love him very much, but I probably wouldn't normally cry when I see him. I would Nana and Grandad when I saw them, but I was never really like that with my dad. And when I saw him, I was just overcome with emotion, and I gave him a big hug. And then I looked at him, and then I gave him a big hug again. And there was like this energy between us, and the interaction was, and my dad's like a typical northern man. And I could tell that he was quite overcome with emotion, because my dad's he's always okay. He's never, you're, how are you doing, Dad? He's like, oh, I'm okay. He never moans about anything, really. He's always okay. And but he's also very emotional. And yes, it was a really intense emotional embrace. And I could feel the intensity of the love passing through between us. And I might get a bit embarrassed about that type of exchange and that embrace, but I didn't. I just embraced it, and I just thought it was a really beautiful experience. And I wonder if that is an outcome of what I've been experiencing within the meditation.
You can't not have an effect. You go to the gym and train, your body has to respond because it's part of the rule set. You train your mind to access states of peace, calm, love, joy, gratitude. It has to have an effect. It's part of the rule set. Just because we can't physically touch it. And again, come back to the term quantum healing. If you look at what the skin is, there's nothing there. If you look at a cell, there's nothing there. You go into the cell, and yes, you have what we call atoms or molecules made up of atoms that are held together by invisible energy fields. And we represent it with little lines and bonds, chemical bonds. Well, what is a bond? It's an energy field that's built into the rule set that doesn't allow it to separate. But if you took a little camera and put it in there and flew around, you would be taking pictures of nothing. There's nothing in there. It's just energy fields. So the body is nothing more than a collection of low frequency energy fields that are condensed into what we perceive through our consciousness to be matter.
Yeah.
And that's it, because all you can do as a human being is experience. That's it.
When I meditate, it's like an out of body experience. I'm lying there, my body is just like nothing. It's just like matter. And then my emotion and my intention, it's there in the energy field. And I can feel very quickly the energy, when I'm lying there and I'm in the meditation, I can feel it. And if you listen to Joe Dispenza, he talks about one of his students who did one of his healing sessions. And he wouldn't recommend that you do it on the way to the airport, but his student didn't have the opportunity to do it on the morning before they got up, and he was going to the airport to catch a flight, so he started doing his breathing whilst he was in the car. As he was going through the security thing at the airport, it recognised, or it bleeped, and it recognised his magnetic field.
Yep.
Like, how powerful is that?
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
Once Joe found out about that, because he likes kind of experiment, and he thought, oh, next time I'm going to the airport, I'm going to try that myself. And he did. He was doing his breathing, and lo and behold, it started bleeping, and they showed his electromagnetic field around his body.
Yeah, we're electromagnetic beings. It's no big deal. I mean, your brain operates electrically. We live in an electromagnetic world, which is the physical and non-physical. Electric meaning electron, which means collapsing the wave function into a particle, and wave as in magnetic wave. If you get a magnet and you draw iron filings, what is the force between that and the iron filings? We don't really know. We have a label for it that we call it a magnetic field. What is it? We don't know. What is energy? It's just a label the mind comes up with to pretend that it understands. Essentially what it is, it's information. It's an information level of exchange. That's what energy is. There's information there. And when we start to understand the latest cutting edge in digital physics, over the next 5 years, I believe, will be a massive revolution on how we understand physical matter reality, non-physical matter reality, and our role within it.
Briefly, I just wanted to quickly talk about this 5-day challenge that you have going on at the moment, because I've been following it myself, finding it really, really useful. It's free content and it's providing lots of valuable information.
Yep.
Can you quickly give us a brief explanation what that is and where people can find that?
Certainly. Well, it's really a 5-day challenge I put out to help people upgrade their peer group. If you want to see one of the things that would have the biggest impact on a person's life, it's who they hang with. Jim Rohn, you become the average of the 5 people you spend time with. Dan Pena, one of my mentors, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And that's not hyperbole, that's based on something called the law of conformity. So if I can show people how to upgrade their peer group, and I wanted to do that as a gift from me to people, I put a 5-day challenge together and give them the best of what I can and just put it out there, because my job is to help raise the global consciousness of humanity. So the more people I can help do that, then the better. So there'll be a link on my website and people can go do that anytime, and it's a great way to go spend 5 days.
Talk us through the 5 days, briefly.
Well, the first day...
What does day 1 cover?
Day 1 really covers the law of conformity and understanding why a peer group is so impactful, because most people have no clue. And it's the science behind it. It's not just, it's a good idea. Now, if you're spending money in personal growth without upgrading your peer group, you're swimming upstream. Okay. Day 2 talks about your financial thermostat. Most people are out there trying to make money and they're running into a glass ceiling, or they're self-sabotaging or procrastinating, and then they blame themselves. And what they don't understand is that most of us have had childhood programming that we have no conscious recollection of, because we were in a theta state from the age of 2 to 6. And
I found that really interesting. I was watching that again today, and that fascinated me.
Yeah.
It really fascinated me. So, you would say, based on that belief, that for people raising children, ages of 2 to 6 are really important in terms of the programming.
They are in hypnosis, which means they don't have access to alpha and beta brainwave stage, which means they have no ability to impose critical thinking. So if you tell them that there's an elephant in the bedroom, they will believe there's an elephant in the bedroom. If you tell them that they're not good enough, then they're going to believe they're not good enough.
And if they're around their parents and they're hearing all these limiting beliefs about money, how money doesn't grow on trees and how money is scarce, they're inevitably going to grow up with that belief that money is going to be scarce.
That's right, and it's an unconscious program, because we can say, well, we'll just change our mind on that, but people are only operating from the conscious mind 5% of the time. The rest of the time, we're what I call sleeping awake. are running automatically. That's why you drive to work on your day off. That's why you are always doing things in a way that essentially has an unconscious component. That's why you're driving, you don't know how you just changed gear or driven the last 5 miles because your mind was somewhere else. So we're running off programs. It's evolutionary. It means you don't have to learn to walk every day. It's useful. The front brain says, well, okay, if I keep building this neural pathway and building the myelin and building the ganglia of the what I think I do, if I'm making a critical decision on it and I do it over and over again, clearly it's important because I'm not going to be hitting my head with a hammer that consistently because the rule set says that that's going to hurt. So whatever I do consistently becomes what we call a habit, and at that point it's handed over to the unconscious, so it frees up the critical thinking so we don't have to bother with the front brain all the time.
Okay, day 3?
Day 3 is a special day. That's where we really start getting into intention and direction, the power of intention, and how to really set up a peer group.
Which is what we've been speaking about now.
Yes, and how to structure it. How do you set a goal and a vision for your peer group? Because if you don't know what you want, anything will do, and that's usually where most people live. And then day 4 is understanding what we call the power of constructive interference. And when you understand how brainwaves operate, if you get around like-minded people, then you will amplify your thought energy. It's measurable, you can see it. If you get around people that are operating at a different frequency, we call that destructive interference, and it cancels out the energy. And that's a critical part. Plus we talk about accountability, which is one of the biggest aspects that any peer group should have. And then day 5, which is tomorrow, and on this 5-day challenge, that's really just bringing it all together, and I talk about how to approach people that you want to invite into your peer group. What are the things that you say? And also how, if you don't have anybody around, how can you still have a peer group using Napoleon Hill's famous technique of the mental boardroom?
So guys, if you would like to get access to this course,
I'll put a link in the show notes.
Thank you so much
so
for your insight,
and it is absolutely fantastic.
Free content,
healing.
I don't normally recommend free content,
where can
but
people
this
find you?
has got
Well, I'm pretty much all over
value
online, but
linked to
petersage.com is my website, and I've got my books are out there as well. In fact, I talk about some of the healing in one of my latest books, bestseller, which is The Inside Track, which I know that you've got as well.
Yes.
And yes, it'd be a pleasure.
It's an absolutely amazing read. So if you can get hold of that, which you can if you go onto Amazon, check that out.
Available in all good online bookstores, as it were, and Audible and Kindle and hardback, all of that kind of stuff. Anyway, shameless book plug at the end of the podcast. Thank you for that.
That's okay.